Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from São Paulo in Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. This session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators to answer. I'll now turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you all, and let's welcome Shannon and Megan.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are so excited for this session. We have the opportunity to hear from our Power BI Dataviz World Champions, and we're going to learn today all about their approach to design and how it is that they became as fabulous as they are. So my name is Shannon Lindsay. I am a project manager at Microsoft. I have the absolute pleasure of being here with you today, and I have the best job in the world because I get to work with you all here in the community. So thanks so much for being with us. I am also a data witch. That is my handle. I am here with my friend and colleague, Megan Longoria. Megan is a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. She's also a data analytics architect with Procure SQL. And Megan and I, fun fact, have been running the Workout Wednesday initiative for Power BI with our friend Carrie Colasco for, I think, 5 years now. So Megan, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I made my career doing Dataviz as well as architecture before Fabric and Power BI started, but that's what I've been doing for the last several years. And I am so glad to see the Dataviz community grow between WoW and stuff like this. It's super exciting because for a long time, it didn't feel like we had a community. And now we have this big one full of people who really care about it. And that's just really great to see.
I could not agree more. And thank you so much to like everyone who is joining us, whether you're here live or you're catching us on replay. This community has grown so much over the past year. We have so many new faces and people who maybe are not new to Dataviz, but who are new to participating in the community. And it's been so fun to get to know you all and interact with you all and just watch everybody help each other. It's been super cool. So speaking of our community, let's introduce our moderators that we have today on the line. Huge thank you to our friends Jen and Frank. They are here with us to answer all of your questions that you have in the chat. We also have our colleague Pam on the line, who you will see in the YouTube chat, who will bring any questions from the chat over to us or to John and Paulo if you have them. So huge thank you to Jen and Frank for being here today. They have the fastest fingers in the West, so thanks so much for answering all of the questions in the chat. And that brings us to this year's edition of the Power BI Data Visualization World Championships. So we are just entering week 2 of the World Champs. So the way that it is working this year is we are hosting 3 rounds total. Last week was our first round. We had over 100 submissions. I have yet to go through them all, but what I've seen so far has been incredible. If you participated in week 1, drop something in the chat to let us know that you participated, and we will head over to the gallery and take a look at your entries. Week 2 is starting now, started yesterday. And in week 2, we are looking at climate data, which is a subject that was heavily requested by you all. So I can't wait to see what you all do with your reports there. Week 3 starts next week. That is our 3rd and final qualifying round. And then the winners of those 3 rounds plus 1 wildcard winner will join us live on stage at FabCon in Atlanta in March. Megan, are you going to be at FabCon this year?
Absolutely.
All right. So we will get a chance to meet you all there. For those of you that do end up coming to FabCon to see us, of course, we would love for you to join us at the finale. Megan and I will both be there. And we always are wanting to meet you and hang out with you in the community lounge. So please stop by and see us there if you're there. With that being said, let's talk a little bit more about just kind of what the Power BI Dataviz World Championships is and why you might want to join. And we're doing this really to introduce kind of what this thing is, how it started, as a lead up to introducing you to our world champs, John and Paulo. So why would you want to join a contest like this? Of course, when we're working on Power BI or any kind of data viz reports in our work, oftentimes that data is not shareable. You can't say, oh, I built this really cool report, here it is, because it's our proprietary business data. You cannot share that. So these kinds of activities, these kinds of contests are really meant to give you the tools, the data, and then the platform to share your work. We want to see what you are doing publicly. We want you to join to get inspired from other participants. We hope that you're really inspired here today by seeing both John and Paulo's reports. You, of course, have the chance to win swag and to claim bragging rights. And then for this contest in particular, we want to see you live on stage at the conference in Atlanta in front of a small audience of a few thousand of our closest friends so that you can build and show off your skills. And okay, so now we know a little bit about the contest. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to get a chance to meet John and Paulo. We are going to talk about their design process. We're going to do a deep dive into their winning submissions. And then you're going to hear some top design tips from the champions. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Remember, if you are joining us live, this is super interactive. We want to hear from you. So if you have any questions, whether it's about the Dataviz World Championships or it's questions for John and Paulo specifically, please drop them in the chat and we'll get them over to them. All right, so very briefly here, just a quick review before we bring John and Paulo into the fold. This contest is a global data visualization contest. It's open to you all. We hold it 2 times a year, and it's aligned to our biggest conference that we've ever had for Power BI and for Fabric, and that is FabCon. It typically consists of qualifying rounds that lead into an in-person finale, where people submit a Power BI report that is then judged by a panel of experts. So with that being said, we are now going to introduce you to our Dataviz World Champions, John and Paulo. So our first World Championship was held last year, right around this time. And the winner of our World Championship was Jonathan Sandman, who built a report live on stage in 20 minutes in front of around 1,000 people, and he took home the coveted belt. So John, congratulations on your win, and thank you so much for being here today. The second world champ that we have here with us today is our friend Paulo Grijo. Paulo is our world champion who won live on stage at our conference in Vienna, which was held in September. So both of our world champions have had a few months to kind of reflect on their wins and their kind of position in the community. So with that said, let's jump in and do some introductions. And we are going to start with John. John, thank you so much for joining us here today. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I've been working with Power BI since its release, and prior to that, I was working in Power Pivot, mostly doing financial analytics, and I came to really enjoy the design aspect of reporting and dashboards. And like it's the combination of art and science, the data modeling, building out your model, reporting, and then the art behind how to structure and present all that information. And I really love it. To this day, I still love it.
Incredible. John, if you had a singular phrase or word to describe your signature style, what would that be?
I would say probably modern minimalism is the best way to put it. I try and keep up with the trends in like web design when I'm designing reports. So it is liable to shift over time, but I try and keep up with the latest in what's going on in the design world.
Incredible. And as a consumer of your reports, I would say that describes you really well. Okay, and just, I know you sort of mentioned what this all means to you, but tell us a little bit about how you found your way into data visualization. What was your path?
So I got my degree in finance, kind of a follow the money approach, and I started at a small company doing financial analytics in Excel mainly. And the requests that I was getting from stakeholders required, they wanted to do more complex analysis, like moving averages and new and recurring customers. And that's kind of how I stumbled upon Power Pivot and DAX. And I saw that those enabled me to do those kind of calculations like really simply and build out models. So I essentially the path was from finance into data, and that kind of has evolved into a whole analytics, design, engineering, kind of like the full stack of data is how I would put it.
That's incredible. So is there anyone on the line in the chat that also has a background in finance? I'd be curious to know if we have some kind of a majority of people who are coming from that background, or if you're alone in that. So let's see that in the chat. Thank you so much, John. It's good to get to know a little bit about you. And now we are going to jump over to talking to our friend Paulo, just so that everyone knows. English is not his first language. He is excellent in speaking English, but we have another friend of ours here with us today, Samir Moses. He is going to help us translate if Paulo needs it. So Samir, thank you so much for joining us today. And Paulo, it is great to see you. So I'm going to start with just asking you, Paulo, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I think we might be having some technical difficulties. Unless it's my internet, Paulo might be frozen.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think my internet is poor connection. You still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Okay. So I'm Paulo Grigio, and
okay, I'm going to jump in.
Attention, it's Viana. It's not. Can you still hear me, Shannon?
Yes, you are cutting out just a little bit. Let's try one more time.
Okay.
And this is what happens when we have people from all over the world on one call.
With Power BI Microsoft ecosystem, and that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Paulo. Unfortunately, we were not able to catch that. Samir, would you mind jumping in and introducing Paulo for us?
Sure. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we sure can.
Great. So we are facing a few internet things around. My camera also is not working properly, but we are here, and amazing that you can hear me. So Paulo is an amazing professional, right? He's a data analyst from Vienna, Brazil, and he's one of the guys that is the hero of all the Brazilians Power BI developer here. He's doing a great work, only not only in the development but also in the events. We have been delivering a few workshops together in a few places, and he's amazing. And one sentence that we were discussing together, I think Paulo can confirm that, but he's on a sentence that could describe him that he was talking about is less is more. He would say that keep it simple so anyone can understand, really well aligned with what John was saying, right? So minimalist, simple, and great. That's something that Paulo always say about.
Thank you. And I'm hearing some similarities here between John and Paulo, and they both happen to be world champions. So this, I think, is like our first takeaway for the audience coming from our world champions. Minimalism, keep things simple, keep it clean. You guys are both aligned on that, and I think it's really obvious in your work. So thank you so much, Samir. All right. Why don't we jump into talking a little bit about your design process? And I'm actually going to hand it over to Megan. And while we do that, I'm going to pull up the reports that actually won you this title. So I'm going to start by pulling up John's report. And we do have all of these reports in a collection for you all to look at. So you'll see each of our finalists for the World Championship. We have their links in a collection for you. You can find them here, and our moderators will drop those in the chat. I'm going to jump over to John's report and just keep this up on the screen while Megan asks you some questions about your design process. So Megan, you want to jump in?
Sure. Let's start with an easy question first. When you opened the brief and the data set, what did you do first and why?
I first took a look at the data, even before kind of the brief. I probably everyone that works with data is just like, let me see it, show me the data, like see what I'm working with. And so I think it was just one giant Excel file, and it's kind of this denormalized aggregation of KPIs in the rows split out by a date and all the different dimensions that are there. So it was abstract to work with. So the first thing I did was just kind of gather my composure and think of how I'm going to model this for this report. Just architecturally, how am I going to structure the data to get it in a usable format, because it was not like that when we first got it.
Cool. Okay. What signal or data point really anchored your story, and how did you validate it?
So there were a lot of different, like in that data set, there were a ton of different domains, which I kind of have across it here. I have 3 domains that I selected from. It was like health and safety, subjective well-being, work and job quality. So basically, OECD compiled all of these metrics across all of these countries in different demographic dimensions, and wrote out like what values they were observing for these different KPIs for the overall like health of the world, if you will. And so I had to choose 3 of the domains, and within each of those domains, there were dozens of different questions that were asked. So I had to find what story that I wanted to tell. And it was a collection of a bunch of different KPIs. So I looked for the different metrics that told the best story or were the most enlightening, I think the most interesting to look at, which involved a lot of exploratory analysis in the data set. So I chose 3 questions for each of the different domains that I covered here, and kind of gave them a similar look and feel to make it clear across the questions, like what the current average is for like how the world is responding to this question, a trend over time, and then a breakdown by country. And there's a tooltip in each of these as well. If you hover over the chart or the table that shows the breakdown between male and the sexes. So yeah, that's kind of what anchored it all together, was that thinking about the domains and which questions to show.
Nice. So was there anything in the data that you excluded on purpose to kind of keep your story focused?
Yeah, basically all of the other metrics that were in there. I think there were hundreds in there, and these were just the most interesting, I think, to look at based on that exploration that I did, or they told the most interesting story I think I could find across all of these. So I had a notebook, I think, I forget how long we had to prepare for this, but it wasn't very long. I think I spent like half of the time preparing, just trying to get my story together of what to show based on the different metrics and the different domains, and just kind of string them up, tie them together logically so that they could be grouped in this domain and presented clearly. Anyway, I had a notebook and just kept writing out different possibilities and groupings of these different metrics and which ones to show to be cohesive. Eventually I settled on these 9 total KPIs, and I added an extra page. I was actually presenting. It was on Women's Day, so I had this extra page kind of dedicated toward gender disparity across different dimensions that came out in the data set. So there's technically 4 domains with this extra page here related to that. So in short, I cleared out a lot. I had to look for the stuff that mattered most.
And I will just jump in here. So the way that we have been running the finals in the past, we give all of the finalists a starter file, something that looks like this. This is actually the starter file for this week's challenge, but we give finalists a starter file, and that starter file includes a bunch of data. And what we do is we say, take all of this data, build it into a story that addresses this question for this audience. I think when we were doing the first version of the World Champs with John, we did not have it that dialed in. We just gave them a giant data set and we said, figure it out. So fortunately they did. They did such a great job. And then we learned for the next round that we needed to be a little bit more specific. So thanks for being the pioneer here, John.
Oh, of course. Happy to do it.
Jump back to your report.
I will say, even if it was the first one and we were still figuring things out, since I got to be there for the live finals, it's impressive how everybody prepares. Just the things that every contestant came up with for how to get this done in such a short amount of time. It was really creative and really cool. So that leads to the question, John, how did you prepare for the live build?
So it's actually something that I would suggest to anybody that's doing the build on stage. Like your nerves are going. You have a visual, like exactly what your report's going to look like. So what I did was just practice the build over and over and over with a timer of like 20 minutes. Like eventually you get it down to like where you can just almost do it blindfolded. And I used it's actually a speed running tool timer to like break out different parts of like when I should have, like, okay, I should have page 1 done at this point in time in the 20 minutes and this section done in this by minute 12. So I think the tool is called Live Split, and you can kind of like break out when things should be done. That might be a little like overkill for most people, but the short version is just practice a lot before going on stage. I think Adam Saxton called out that he liked the live split dynamic of that because it was, I guess he's a gamer as well. So it's very helpful. So check it out.
And I'll
Yeah,
just jump
I thought
in
that was
here.
really cool as well, and I'm not a gamer, so
Yes. Agreed. And so just so everyone knows, the finalists, when they go to build on stage, they have 20 minutes to build a complete report. So what you are seeing here on the screen is what John built in 20 minutes, which is just, I mean, to build something that looks like this, I personally would spend at least weeks on this. So I'm so blown away by the quality and by the amount of, I don't know, depth that the report has. Okay, so are we ready, Megan, to jump over and talk to Paulo a little bit about his report?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, thanks so much, John. And we are now looking at Europe's flavor story, which I love. Megan, take it away.
All right, Paulo, we will ask you the same questions that we asked John. And we'll start with, what did you do first when you opened the original brief and the data set?
So everyone is hearing me?
Yes.
It's okay? Oh, okay. So I researched the inspirations and focus on combining data analysis and design. And when I open the data set in Power BI, I first aim to understand its context, structure, and key insights to define the report's objective. And so based on that, I designed visuals that tell the story, guided by the theme of coffee, chocolate, and life satisfaction.
Nice.
And that's it.
So was there a particular data point or a set of evidence that really anchored your story? And if so, how did you validate it?
Yeah, I thought about addressing people's lifestyles. And at first, I considered to talk about the entire world, uh, the world data set, because I'm Brazilian, and I guess Brazil is a major coffee producer. But I prefer to narrow the scope to Europe because it's more easier, and I validated because I found easier to work with countries and regions only from Europe, and so I set up the Western region, Southern region, and all the countries in Europe. Yeah, this is it.
Oops, sorry about that.
Oh.
Okay. So was there anything that you excluded from the data set or even from your original designs maybe to keep your story really tight and crisp?
So, as me and also John said, less is more, so I try to reduce unnecessary details and focus on what really matters and make sure that whoever reads my report or see it understand completely the entire story. So a child maybe see the reports and understand what I'm trying to present, and that's it. Less is more always.
I like it, making it accessible to a general audience. All right, last question. How did you prepare for the live build?
So I prepare myself by trying to have fun, first of all. Just have fun, as Shannon said to me every time. Just have fun, guys. And so I get it to me, and I try to inspire myself by her words. So I try to have fun, and also exploring the possibilities that Power BI offers, and how far can we go with the creative and Power BI features, and also external tools, external text codes with HTML, CSS, SVGs, animations, and Dataviz. So I combine all these things, and I'm preparing in this way, and that's it.
Love that. I'm hearing so much as you both are talking about your approach and the different tools that you used and the different types of visuals that were available to you. So I think now might be a good time to ask people in the chat, do you have a favorite or a go-to kind of visual that you like to use in Power BI? I know in the last contest we held, we had actually some incredible entries, some of which were like completely CSS and HTML, and then others that were all core visuals, so the visuals that were built into Power BI. And we actually were not able to pick a single winner because they were both excellent and they were both totally different. So we ended up picking two winners, one that was highlighted for their use of custom visuals and one that was highlighted for their use of core visuals. So like you mentioned, Paulo, the opportunities are just kind of endless when it comes to what you can actually do in this tool, which is so cool. Before we jump into the next set of questions, I just want to make sure that everyone is able to access these reports. We are going to jump back in and talk again to John a little bit more about his report, but I want to make sure that you all are able to see it. So with that being said, we're going to jump back over to John and talk a little bit more about his report and what he did here. And apologies, let me just pull up these questions. It's my first day driving a computer, clearly. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask each person some questions specifically about the design. And this might be a good opportunity if you are wondering, like, how did they do that? Please ask that in the chat, and Pam will help us figure out which questions we can have John answer himself. All right, so John, on your first page here, which is kind of the hero page, what led you to pick this kind of layout and reading order for your 3 KPIs that you highlighted?
Oh man, it's tough to say, honestly. I think my approach in like designing a layout, especially for a Power BI report, is all data sets are going to be different, like, and all reports are going to be different, showing different things, and this one was particularly unique. My approach has always been to put stuff on the canvas to check that my DAX logic and all of the stuff is right, just in simple tables. And then once I know that it's right, I just experiment, like just super quick iteration after iteration of moving things around, putting them in the right place, seeing what looks good and seeing what flows. That you can try and use kind of templates to say, like, okay, these KPIs go across the top here, and you try and align like a table down below exactly. But in my experience, like it just depends on what you're trying to show and the data and just the report. They're all unique. So as far as like the evolution of how it got here, I couldn't tell you. It probably went through like dozens of micro iterations that and just resulted in this as just what I deemed to be the best layout for showing this.
Well, and it clearly was the best because you won. So this was really great. We have a question from the audience, and the question is, these progress bars here, tell us about how you did those.
Yeah, those. So ever since, so the new card visual, the advanced card visual that's out, a couple recent updates changed how this renders on here. So this progress bar used to fill the entire width. It wasn't like a small kind of consolidated over there. I just want to mention that. That's an SVG. So it's like, it's HTML. It's just a dynamic SVG image that takes the DAX measure and then shows the progress on the bar. And there was a lot of work done kind of on the back end to showcase, you see it's like it's green for the leftmost, and then it's orange on those. So different metrics, like people with negative affect balance are experiencing physical pain. The higher those are, the more, it should be orange. So I set these thresholds for like what color they should be, and that's all like dynamic in the SVG code. There's a ton of resources online to create those SVG measures. I know a lot of them. I've seen a lot floating out there. I had a GPT. I made this custom GPT, and the prompt was to it gave the format that DAX or Power BI expects for an SVG measure, and you just tell it like, I want this like a radial progress bar, and it will build the SVG and then put the variables at the top of the DAX so that you can just fill it in, and then it just makes it dynamic. So I don't, like, if you asked me to write an SVG image, like I couldn't do it. So it was all that GPT that put it together in full transparency on those.
That is super cool. I'm wondering if there are anybody on the line here that has experimented with using generative AI for visuals in Power BI. I know I definitely have.
And there's some Workout Wednesdays where we definitely did. When I do it, I fully admit and put it in the post. So if you did the snowfall one recently for me, that was from Claude. Thank you, Claude.
Yeah, and one thing that John mentioned that I just want to highlight or reiterate is this report was built almost a year ago. So things have changed within the product that has changed the appearance of John's report. So it didn't look exactly like this when he first built it, just so folks know. And things are constantly changing in the product, and we all know and love that. So just so everyone knows, there are some things that have changed in here, which is why it looks slightly different. We've got one more question for John from the audience, and it is a question that I actually don't know what this is, so maybe you can shed some light on it. The question is, when do you find yourself using data analysis tool pack on your data? Is that something you're familiar with?
I know I use the SQL BI tools for like the DAX Studio and like the performance analyzer in Power BI. Like that's the extent of the third party like Tabular Studio to model and do stuff. Been a bit, so I can't speak exactly to Toolpack, but I know like if models get much larger and much more complex, so it just becomes much easier to use DAX Studio and Tabular Editor to work in there and like make a bunch of changes that you need to make. So I guess to answer the question, like when do I find myself using tools like that? In most models that I work with, I don't need to. I think the Power BI interface does, like, it works. I think the only cases when I do need to use like the third-party add-ins are when like things are gigantic. Like you've got like really big models, like hundreds of tables in your model. You've got, big data sets, multiple fact tables, tons of different dimensions and bridge tables. It's like, it just, when things get complicated and big, then I use like third-party visuals. And I think I always use the performance analyzer if something's slow. So yeah.
Can I jump in and ask John one last question?
Please do.
So I particularly remember, since I got to judge, and in case anyone else doesn't know, we assign scores for different topics and then come up with a full composite score at the end. And one of the areas that we judge on is accessibility, which I love to see. So was there something in your design, John, that maybe as you were creating different iterations, or you kind of got towards the end, you realized you needed to change it to make it more accessible? Or was it just, I'm going to be accessible from the beginning? And was there something that you built in for accessibility?
So I kind of have a philosophy around it. So like I operate from like design principles, so I define a clear neutral palette and I define a clear brand palette. Like I'm not randomly choosing hex codes to put into the design. So when you systematize and just make it easy on yourself for choosing which colors should be what, I mean, it's kind of abstract if you haven't worked in design, and so I'll try and make it simple and quick. It's like when you operate from a palette, say going from white all the way to black, like different shades, say you have 12 different shades, and say the lightest shades are for backgrounds, and then in the middle of the palette where it gets a little darker, like those are borders and emphasis, and at the very end where it's black, you say that's for text and the foreground elements. So when you operate from that, you kind of systematize out the possibility of making poor accessibility decisions. So I think that's crucial to for color contrast and whatnot. As far as like the tab order, I think Power BI makes that super simple to do. It'll look at the arrangement of the visuals on the canvas and then automatically suggest a tab order that you can customize, and that's just drag and drop. So as far as colors go, that operating from a system, Power BI makes the tab order and the built-in other accessibility features like alt text super simple, and then just setting clear like typography standards. Like you should almost never have text that's like 8 points or below 12 pixels on the canvas. It just makes it almost impossible to read. So I typically have a kind of a base line of, I think it's 9-point font. It's either 9 or 10, and it equates to 16 pixels. I think in pixels, Power BI is in points, so I get the conversion off. But yeah, I like 16 pixels as a good base level font for everything. I think the text in the tables is 16 pixels, and then so is the visual title, and then the text below that for less emphasis is probably 14 pixels. And so yeah, having just operating from a system, I'll end it there, is important in everything. Typography, layout, colors, accessibility, all of it. It just eliminate the number of decisions that you have to make about design by working from a system, and you'll end up with something that looks much better than someone that cherry picked every single aspect about their report.
Well said.
I love that answer. And I really appreciate the thought that you put into accessibility. Just so everyone is aware, accessibility for round 1 of the World Champs was 30% of the score. For round 2 of the World Champs, it was 25% of the score, and it remains 25% of the score. But we at Microsoft, along with Megan and our community partners, we wanted to make sure that we are really truly emphasizing the accessibility of data visualization. It's not inherently accessible. It's got visualization in the title, right? So we wanted to make sure that we are practicing best practices so that everyone can access these reports. So speaking of accessibility, this is actually a nice lead-in, and I would like to jump over to Paulo's report. So thanks so much, John, for that deep dive. Still lots of questions coming in from the chat, which we will get to. But I'd love to jump over to Paulo. Let's bring Paulo on. And I want to talk about on your landing page here, Paulo, you built in one of the coolest things I have seen in a published Power BI report that could be super helpful to us as designers. And this is your color blindness palette, your color vision simulator here. Can you talk to us about how this came to be? Why did you build this into your report?
Yeah. First, regarding the color palette of entire visual, I think all the finalists had a similar reasoning. Everyone gravitated toward earthier tones to communicate the visual identity of coffee and chocolate. But because the colors are very similar, I felt the need for a strong contrast. So immediately I had the idea of helping colorblind users distinguish the colors better. And this story is so meaningful to me because it was inspired by a real project from about 2 years ago. I work in a risk analysis area, and we use matrices to handle with the risks. So we had low risks in green, medium risks in yellow, and red risks in red. And
That sounds familiar.
I had a colleague who was a colorblind, um, and I made a matrix specifically for him. I made this kind of simulator for him, and I inspired myself to bring it to this project, uh, and that's it. So I create a version specific for him, and later we discovered other people across the company benefited too. It was a large organization, so it ended up helping many others. And I use a Copley simulator. It's like a certain tool. I test the colors, the primary colors, and I change the colors to another visions, another kinds of or color blindness. So it was inspired by a real project, you know.
That is really incredible that you already had so much experience with accessibility coming into this contest. I find that really incredible. And I mean, it's very clear that you had this experience and you were able to build this in. So bravo. I love this feature. The next thing that I wanted to highlight on your landing page here is you have this really cool kind of button slicer here where you can look at the different regions, and you have the flyout, and then you have a card that contains all of the metrics about that region. I love this. How did you build this?
So the idea came from a previous visual built using a map Brazil for another project, and it's not a real project, but I'm learning Power BI techniques with Dataviz, and then I adapted the concept to Europe map. I made to Brazil, so I would like to make something like this for Europe map, and I wanted to place it right at the beginning because it immediately captures the attention, and it's are intentionally, so users feel encouraged to explore the regional data. So it's definitely intentionally because I provoke the users their curiosity, and I guide them through the report. So I how can I say that users feel encouraged, to explore the regional data and see the numbers, and ask yourself, okay, so what, and how can I get more of the information? So the users see the entire report, see this page, and I provoke them to think, okay, so where's the next button to next page and get more details and deeper analysis. So that's it.
Yeah, and I really think it accomplishes that. You did such a great job here. One more question related to this map. How did you create this map? Is this HTML? Is this a shape map? What kind of map is this?
This is HTML. How can I say that? Every country in this Europe map was designed on it's not Figma tool, but it was drawing. Okay. I have the coordinates, so it's a SVG, and with SVG we can manipulate the code. We can animate it. We can change the colors. So it's a measure made with SVG concatenated with DEX. So we can apply the filters and using index like a selected value function, not yes, a function. I can't say that. But you can understand me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So I guess, I mean, I love this map. I find it so inspiring. I know people in the chat are loving it as well. Let's click into the map here and go to the next page that shows kind of some details. And again, we're looking at coffee, chocolate, and well-being. And I will just ask you the first question here. How did you make the decision about the layout of your main page here?
The decision was simple. I want to show the entire report presenting a value at a time, an indicator at a time. So I presenting just coffee. So I use the field parameter technique to make that. So I just visualize coffee. I just visualize chocolate. I just visualize well-being. So this is my intention in this report. See KPI at a time. And so I can explore regions, I can explore the outliers, I can explore the main indicators, and that's it.
Excellent.
So let me ask, was there one thing that you did, some small detail that you added that you feel like really made the report feel polished? Because it looks very nice and clean and well designed. Is there something that you think just really helped achieve that?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Is there one small design detail that you implemented that you think made the report feel really polished?
I try to make some consistency in this report. John said super well, and I make his words my words, and it's more easy to say. But I try to maintain a consistency in this report, and so I use a single field parameters on the top, and when I click in this button, entire report change. So the colors, the titles, the subtitles, the tooltips, the values, everything changes, and I guess it's okay to maintain polish, as you said.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great use of conditional formatting there.
Really nice. And just one thing I want to call out, this is minor, but I think it's so well done. I really, really like your use of a single color here to highlight values in your bar chart. I feel like oftentimes we will do multiple colors across the bars rather than just highlighting the high or the low value. And I think the way you did that, it's very simple, but it's very impactful. So really, really cool. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, and we are going to do some rapid fire questions with you all. So the way this is going to work is we're just going to ask each of you a question and give us just a 1-sentence answer that answers the question. So let's bring John back onto the screen, and we will jump into the rapid fire questions. And while we do that, I'll just pull up these links so that you can look at John and Paulo's work. So rapid fire, I'll start with the first question for John and Paulo, and then Megan, I'll have you jump in. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So John, when you are trying to figure out your data story for a new build, what is one move that you do again and again to find faster insights?
I kind of alluded to it, but just the constant quick iteration between different ideas, like just nonstop, just think, what about this? Try it out. Very quick, very rough. And then, just move on to the next thing and see what works best. That kind of iteration is what I find helps you weed out the best approach.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Great answer. So Paulo, now we will ask you the same question. What is one thing that you do every time you build a report to help you get those insights faster? And let's pull Paulo back up here and bring him on. Thanks, Larissa.
So I try to start with extremes and outliers to review sites quickly, and I adopt also Z layout when narrative is linear. So before designing before designing anything, I look to my model, I look to relationships, I look to performance and DEX. And after that, I start with design process outliers. I never publish a report without validation, table ordering, consistency, and minimum contrast, and that's it. I use no, that's it. Okay.
I heard so many really good tips in both of those answers. So thanks to you both. Megan, you want to jump in?
Okay. John, what is one layout pattern that you tend to use a lot? And maybe tell us a little about when it works or when it might not work on page design, page layout.
I think something that comes to mind quickly is, so I'm a big fan of the filter pane. I know it might not be the most popular format of putting filters on a page, but I think, it's there. It's on the side. It already exists. I've seen a lot of people try and recreate their own kind of filter pane that's on the canvas on the left or right side and put a bunch of filters on the canvas. I say use the filter pane and put filters or slicers on the canvas that are like just the absolute most crucial, because they can take up a lot of space. So I typically go for your standard title, KPIs, and then title, filters, KPIs, and then your core visuals. But kind of back to what I said before, every report is a bit different. So I am not afraid to go outside of those boundaries and those layouts that are kind of classic. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right, thanks. And Paulo, same question to you. What's one page layout pattern that you use a whole lot, and when does it work best?
Oh, I use the Z layout when the narrative is linear, as I said, and I love exploring to the world of design, and I love to look at components and trying to adapt then these components for Power BI, like using widgets to communicate information more clearly and more simple.
Love that. All right, so this brings us to the end of our hour with our world champs. Quick reminder, we have another edition of World Champs running right now. There is a question in the chat that asks if previous World Champs are allowed to participate and win again. The answer is yes, everyone can participate. It's not something that we've put a ton of thought into, so maybe we need to think about it a little bit more, but I think the answer is yes. With that being said, I would love to wrap up by asking each of you if you have any advice or encouragement for people to participate. So I'm going to start with John, and then we'll come to you, Paulo.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said at the beginning, Shannon, like having a portfolio. I think just doing the qualifying rounds, I was amazed at how many reports I was able to get at. Like I have the Love, the national parks, and now this OECD. It's really nice to be able to look back at your portfolio of what you've created just by doing these, and just build out a portfolio just by trying and refining your skills. I think that's one of the best ways to go about it, because like you said, you can't often show the data from your private company to the world. So yeah, that's the best motivation I can see, is my tangible work in front of me and being proud of it, and you'll have a lot of that by participating in these challenges.
Love that. Thank you. And Paulo, how about from you? What's a piece of encouragement or advice you would give to people for participating in this edition of World Champs?
Just believe in yourself and just go to have fun. It's not your work. It's not a application. Just go and have fun. Just try to explore the Power BI possibilities. Just try to explore the a thing you don't know. Try to learn, because I I try to learn so much in this competition, these challenges, and ne- don't get bored if you don't win something. Because I participated in a challenge for BI turns 10, and I spent, I don't know, 50 hours in my report. I I didn't get anything, but it's okay. I learned so much, and it's super cool. It's a super cool challenge.
That is an absolutely perfect way to wrap up. Just to mention, we are all learning. The tool is constantly changing. There is so much that we can do with data in Power BI, and we want you all to be able to learn and share and have fun and converse with each other. That is the point of all of that. So with that, I will say a huge thank you to everyone who has joined today. Thank you to our moderators in the chat. Thank you to Samir for joining to support us. And just a huge thank you to John and Paulo for sharing your wisdom with all of us. We appreciate you so much. And to everyone on the line, we will see you over on the community site, and we can't wait to see your entries for the World Champs. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you our moderators. Thank you for all the knowledge we learned today with John and Paulo. And thank you for joining our session. We are always looking to improve your experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link on the screen or in the chat, and we'll see you in the next one.